So first things first, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Awesome, awesome.
So where I want to start with is with a line in Some People Say, which is, it's the blood that I bleed, it's the love that I need. When did you realize that rock and roll or music had this importance for you?
Man, you know, it's kind of one of those things. It's like we've been touring, and you know, I've been wanting to do music since I was 3 years old. I tried out for the Mickey Mouse Club.
Okay.
I don't think I knew it was the love that I needed and the blood that I bleeded at that point, but I think it's just one of those things. As you get older, you realize your passion more and more, and as you do it more, it kind of comes to you more. And that was really, that was just a line that, as we're writing the song, I'm just like, yeah. And it's honestly, it was just one of those lines that just came to me, so it's in there, it's floating in the ether, and I just happened to grab it out,
Right.
But, I think it has to do with, us getting out there every night, playing to the fans, and, just capturing that vibe and feeling the love from them, and giving it right back. So that's what I would say about that.
How was this love for music cultivated? Because you say 3 years old, which is quite young. So
yeah.
Did you grow up in a very musical household?
Not really. My mom and my father sang in the church choir. I remember a specific moment when I was probably 8 or 9. My mom was practicing a song that they were about to sing, and I remember hearing her sing, and I was like, Mom, you can sing, it just didn't really occur to me that you see these people on TV, doing this stuff, and I don't know, for whatever reason, I just didn't think, oh, well, maybe one of us could do that, it was always just such a dream. But then when I heard that in my living room, I was like, it was almost kind of like a light, it was a light bulb moment for me. And, my father was always very, 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 very supportive of my, I had a room that was, half the size of this room, and I had a full Marshall stack in it when I was 12 years old.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So he was like, whatever you want, son, we got you. You're going to have to work for it. But if you do the work, I'll be supportive and do your thing.
And that last thing, that's something that I always find interesting when I talk to musicians, because there is that period once you when you're younger, you get into bands and you play with friends and all that stuff. And then once you guys started the band, then you have to do the work. Then the hard work starts. So
oh yes.
What were the first couple of years like, the first year or two, in terms of kind of figuring out what you wanted to do, where you wanted to go?
Exactly. I think it was exactly that. It was, figuring out, kind of who we were as artists, and honestly, I'm still doing that. I'm like, that's still a thing for sure. But just kind of, figuring out each other's personality, because let's face it, when you're dealing with people this intimately, you're going to begin to know, their flaws and their, the good things about them, So I think it's really just been about getting to know the people that you're, in a band with. And then taking that on the road brings a whole other aspect to life. Sure. When you're sleeping in the same hotel room every night with 4 guys, 5 guys, and then it end up being 6 guys, and it's just, you kind of go through a lot of hardships together, and you really get to know each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously with the rest of the band as well, but when you met Zack, and then there's that story about him walking by as you sang a song, but how long did it take for you to figure out that you had a similar passion or a similar dream to pursue this music thing?
Not very long, honestly. We had he came upon me. We had a great little conversation. I handed him the guitar. He played a little something too. He went home that day, ended up burning me a a data disc, I think, of like 600 songs that he loved, and kind of honestly opened my musical world up to a lot of different artists that I had I'd heard of a lot of them, but never really, I didn't really like seek them out, I guess you could say. So he kind of laid this, you know, treasure trove of stuff, you know, in my lap and was like, here, check this out, man. So that was really cool for me to, you know, be able to have that influence from him, you know? Yeah. So I realized, you know, he was just a good friend, you know, like who he didn't even really know me, but he was like, I'm going to spend the time to burn these 600 songs or whatever, you know? So that was cool. That was cool. That was when I knew. I was like, all right, this dude's legit.
And then, well, as you mentioned, you kind of, you start playing shows, you go on the road, spend a lot of time together, the band starts growing, starts getting a bit of traction here and there. Is it difficult to keep kind of that goal in front of you as you go through all those hundreds of shows and...
Yeah, I mean, you know, because it's so, like, our success has been so incremental. I mean, it's like the steps of the longest pyramid you ever saw, you know? Hope we don't start going back down the other side, but you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's just been all these little incremental goals that we have, you know, that we've been fortunate enough to, you know, meet and continuously, you know, keep striving for more. But, you know, it's tough, but it's also, it's fun, you know, because if there wasn't another thing to be looking forward to, I mean, you know, I don't know, it's, you know, you want to be happy in the moment, you know, but you also want to be able to, like you said, look forward to, you know, what's the future hold, you know, what's the next goal, what's the next step, how are we going to make this bigger and better.
And I suppose then that within that there's also an element of owning your craft and
absolutely
progressing every time.
Absolutely. That goes right along with it. So I think those two things work together harmoniously to, you know, create that drive, you know, that we have. So yeah, I don't think I ever want to stop, you know, trying to, you know, better our band, better myself, you know, as an artist, you know, go, you know, travel down new avenues as an artist, you know, just celebrate artistry in my life and our lives.
And then can I assume then that the last record, Men Amongst Mountains, was a little bit of a turnaround in terms of kind of exposure and
yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't want to go into that album, but because you have a new one.
Yeah, totally.
But having made that album and getting the attention that it did, what did that bring to kind of the process of making this new record?
You know, I think we were, you know, we found out a little bit more about who we were as, you know, artists, you know, and bandmates, you know. That was an album where we recorded mostly, you know, live in the same room. We did a large chunk of Take Good Care with Dave Cobb recording live in the same room. But then also, you know, we kind of broke it up. We used a couple other producers to kind of capture some of these other vibes, you know, like Andrew Dawson. He has worked with Kanye West for 10 years. So, you know, like, he kind of brings that hip-hop element that we all love, you know, and we kind of want to infuse that into, you know, some of our songs in a subtle way, but also like, all right, yeah, okay, I see that, you know. So, yeah, I don't know, what was that?
No, but in that sense, it is a very diverse album, the new one. So was that by design?
That is by design of just the songs. Okay. And we always just say, you know, or I always just say, it's just like, we want to let the song be the song. And we don't really want to pigeonhole ourselves into one sound. If the album comes out as a patchwork quilt of, you know, different various vibes and we're trying this here and we're trying this there, I think as long as I'm singing and as long as Zack's playing the guitar, you know, George is on the bass, Andrew's on the drums, Ed's on the steel, you know, Rob on the sax, you know, we got that. That's our sound.
Right. You mentioned kind of being in a band with Zack and then being and the other guys and being so close together and learning from each other. Is there one thing that you've kind of discovered about yourself by being in this band and kind of? Yeah, it's a little bit vague. That question.
No, it's okay. Ask it one more time.
Well, is there anything that you've kind of discovered about yourself going through those album cycles and then the creativity that goes into making an album? And
I have discovered that I'm a fighter.
Okay. Okay.
You know, because, and also, you know, I know when to give, you know, because that's really what, honestly, a band is all about. You know, it's a give and take. It's give and take. It's taking someone's vision and then pushing that vision out into the band and letting everyone else put their stamp on it, you know? So sometimes you have to say, well, let's rein it back. Or sometimes it grows into this, you know, beautiful, amazing thing. Sometimes it was already there. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, you know, I'll say I'm a lover and a fighter.
But I can't imagine, especially, I think it's 8 people that are in the band.
Now, yeah, exactly.
That it can be difficult at times making decisions, musical decisions. And then you mentioned kind of working with all these producers and songwriters as well. So how do you kind of...
So it's good for us to work with a producer because they can kind of be the dictator. You know, we can kind of be like, okay, when we're at an impasse, when no one's agreeing on something, we can kind of go, so Mr. Cobb, Mr. Dawson, Mr. Bassett, whoever it may be, Mr. Elman, what do you think about this? You know, where should we go? Because one person wants to do this, one person wants to do that. And, you know, it's not to say that anyone's right or wrong, you know, because it's such a matter of taste with music and it's all very subjective. So, you know, a lot of times we let the producer sort it out. We've actually gotten pretty good as a band sorting it out together.
Okay.
So
you're pretty much on the same line.
Exactly. As we've grown, we've realized people's strengths and people's weaknesses. So,
well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
With that in mind, then, is there one song, and this is a little bit unfair, but is there one song that sticks out on the album for you?
Oh man.
So I'll do the disclaimer. Obviously, you like all the songs.
No, totally, absolutely. No, it's you know. Can I give you 2?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm gonna say "Other Side of Paradise."
Okay.
And a song that, you know, I think we need more of these kind of songs nowadays. "Shoot You Down," because we got a big issue in America, you know, with gun violence and just that whole thing. So I think, you know, artists, bands, you know, just people in general, you know, it would be nice to, you know, get on the right side of history, you know. I know a lot of people are, but I think a lot of people aren't. So just trying to do our part to, you know, push the needle for change.
And with "Shoot You Down," one thing I liked about that song is that it's not necessarily pointing a finger, but it's more inclusive.
Yeah.
In the sense. So was that the kind of the aim of that song?
I mean, when you're writing a song like that, it's really hard to not be preachy, you know? So we just tried our best to not be preachy, I guess, you know? And like that was like the underlying tone, like just it was more of like let's be emotive and just let's put this idea of, you know, love out there, really, and just to say like, you know, I won't shoot you down. I won't shoot you down. So.
Well, yeah, because I can imagine. Is it almost inevitable that things like these, issues like these kind of seep in through the music?
Yeah. Yeah. Is it almost? Yes. Yes, it is. I think, you know, if you, you know, I try to be as socially conscious as possible without not watching, you know. I try to not watch the news every day because it's just like one thing after another. It's just like, oh, gosh, it gets to be, a little much, you know. So, I get the most important things here and there, and the ones that break through the surface, And this is definitely one that was, hitting from all angles, didn't wanna ignore it, you know what I'm saying? So.
Right. And then the other side you mentioned, Other Side of Paradise. I found the lyrics very intriguing. I wrote one of them down, but I could have written many others. Free from complications of your sense of time.
So I'll just tell you, our drummer Andrew wrote this song. So, what I think he means by that is just, we're now in a world free from pain, free from any obligations, free from this, where we can just spend our time together, suspended in this, moment of time, free of all cares.
Is that what being on stage is for you?
Sometimes. Not every time.
Okay.
There is a moment where it connects, and you can be in that moment for, X amount of time. And, you realize it, when it occurs, kind of. But if you realize it too much, you're out. Right. You're gone. So it's a fleeting thing, honestly, for me. I try to get there every night, because I know what that feels like for me, and I want the audience to be there because I can tell when they're there as well. So, it doesn't get there every night. It's just not. I don't really think it's possible, honestly, because there's too many
variables.
Too many variables involved. It's like, did I write the set list well enough? Because I try to make it different every night. So it's like sometimes like Manchester was a good show. London was insane. And I don't know the difference,
Right.
It's just like, yeah.
But is that true then? Because I can imagine, and I'm not a musician, but I can imagine being in the studio, and then I think you wrote about 60 songs for this, and then try to capture those songs and then figure out which ones to go on the record. But do you get to a similar feeling with the band in the studio, where it's kind of that click moment or something?
Yes, we've gotten to that before, for sure. It doesn't always happen in the studio as well. Hey!
We're almost done.
Oh, good. It's the same thing. I honestly think it's harder to get to in the studio.
Okay.
Because you don't have, you're missing a piece of the equation, So, it just has to sound really good in those earphones. So
Fair enough.
You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where, it definitely happens in the studio. Like, for instance, again, Other Side of Paradise. That was one vocal take.
Okay.
It was like, I want to say it was like the third or fourth vocal take. But it's one vocal take all the way through. That's it. So that was, when that happens, it's like that, we basically took everything from that take. There weren't, then we did some overdubs on it, but the meat of that, was just everything. And a lot of times that doesn't happen in the studio. You get the meat and then you go in and you do the vocals or you do this, So that was one that was like,
okay.
Yeah.
And then musically, there's a couple of songs that stuck out for me, but again, it's quite diverse. Let's go to Oh No, because I really like the guitars on there. What was it? Was it a how should I phrase this? Did you and David make a point of kind of getting those guitars in there and getting one of those songs on the record?
So that was just that was a riff that was a song that I just kind of came up with in my in my little makeshift studio, and it was just one that it stuck out in amongst the 60 demos, it could have, you know, it could have not even made the record, honestly. Like, I'm not gonna say it wasn't gonna make it, but like, it was just, we were dealing with so many songs, and there was a situation where, you know, we do try, like, you know, it's like, okay, well, we have this vibe. We don't want too much of that vibe, but like, we don't have this vibe, you know? So that song filled a good, you know, a good slot on the album for just like that. We need a banger, like, well, here it is, you know? Interesting thing about that song is the guitar tone that you're hearing in it is just the guitar tone that I got at my house.
Okay.
Plugged DI in and then messed with all the stuff. So that's not, you know, that's not some Marshall half stack or whatever, you know, that's just like overdriving the compressor, putting on some interesting gain things, doing some interesting things with the EQ, the guitar. It was an old Telecaster with a, I don't even know, piezo pickup, I think, or something like that. So it's just a very unconventional way to get the tone, which I think worked out.
Well, it worked out.
Yeah,
so certainly. And then finally, we talked already a little bit about ambition, but having the previous album doing a certain amount of kind of... do you have any expectations, or do you try to avoid those for this album?
You know, I think that we just want to put out art that we're proud of, and, you know, songs that we can stand behind. And if that resonates with the people, that's, you know, that's what I'm about. I'm not going to lie and say that, you know, there's not expectations, you know, from outside sources, you know, because that's always the thing, especially when you get to this level, you know. There weren't, yeah, when we were just playing in the garage together, it was only our expectation to go out and, you know, have a beer and, you know, and play some songs for our friends.
Well, that's interesting, because let's go back 10 years then. What kind of vision did you have for the future at that point?
I mean, you know, you always want to, I mean, you know, I wanted to be the biggest rock band in the world, you know. Sure. That's always the dream. That's the, you know, that's the pie in the sky, you know, the thing. But also, I was living for playing to those 10 people, you know, for years every night. And then it turned into 100 and, you know, 300 and now thousands. So it's different now, but, you know, the love was always there. It was always the same thing, to just go out, have a good time, you know, spread the message. Spread the art.
All right. I think on that note, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.